Okay, so you guys are all welcome. We're going to be talking about, COVID, the other side of COVID, as we discussed in the advert. Non-scientific stuff here. We don't want virology. We don't want death rates or anything like that. We shall begin with you, Anchil. You're welcome.
Thank you.
I believe you're speaking from where? Seychelles or something like that?
Yeah, Seychelles. I abandoned Uganda just before COVID hit it up, man.
Hey, how is it that side?
Yeah, it's Kawa. We got 7 cases. All of them have been quarantined. None of them have been locally transmitted. They've all been foreigners and tourists from abroad. And all of them are okay. They've recovered. So we haven't yet gotten any other case. And people are living life normally, but cautiously.
Yeah, that is interesting. What does COVID mean to you?
To me, COVID is basically, how should I put it? It's another natural phenomenon. It's one of those diseases that jumped from animals and started infecting humans, which means that it's never going away. It's now part of us, like malaria and HIV and all the like. So to me, COVID is just normal. You understand? It's new and yeah, it's just a disease. What we really need to do is understand it better, so that we can navigate our ways around it, through vaccines, through, what they're doing right now, quarantines and whatever. But I don't think it's anything for us to give so much importance into our lives that we have to adjust everything else, because there's a lot more than COVID.
There's a lot more than COVID. Enock, you're speaking from Uganda, I believe.
Yes, I am.
Where in Uganda?
Where you are as well.
Where in Uganda are you?
Namugongo.
Namugongo. Has COVID affected your life in any way?
Yeah, a lot. Mainly because of the lockdowns. I don't know anyone personally that has been infected. I don't know anybody that knows anyone that is infected. So I have no personal contact with the disease, but the things that are going with the disease are causing a lot of disruption to my life. I do not like it. I understand it is necessary, and sometimes I'm skeptical if it's even that necessary, because there's a lot of hype about the disease, which I don't understand. Yeah.
Which you don't understand.
Yeah.
So I think now we're just going to let it open. Anyone can jump in if you feel you have something burning to say. But the issue now is when do we think this is going to end? Our world has been disrupted. Life as we know it has changed. When do we think this whole commotion and lockdown and I don't know, no international flights is going to end?
That bit of the precautionary measures, the lockdowns, the social distancing, the international flights cancellations, all that will end soon when people get to accept this fact that we have a disease and it's never going away. And I think what will speed up that process will be when we develop a vaccine. Before that, it will take a little bit longer, but eventually people will look at it as a normal thing. Right now, they're just panicking because, the news is just showing death. 450 people have died, but they forget to say 450 people out of 7 billion. You understand?
I understand.
So that 450 can sound really big, but when you put in some little bit of math and get a clearer perspective, you see it's just a drop in the ocean. And then on top of that, the people that are dying are not really healthy individuals. Fine, if you have succumbed, but they're not telling us other shit that they had. Sorry for saying that, but I don't care. They don't tell us what other stuff they had, like the old guys, the guys with heart issues, lung issues. They don't say any of that. They just say, oh, this so-and-so have died. If a young man dies, then they make it highlighting, they put it out there. Oh, a 35-year-old has died. Can you believe it? You understand? But they do not give you the clear perspective of what's really going on. So that sort of creates uncertainty, creates fear, creates panic, makes people do all sorts of things to abandon their judgments and reasoning. And that's why we've had all this cascading effect whereby life has just come to a standstill, in my view, unnecessarily.
Unnecessarily. I see you've dived right to the issue. You feel the media is overhyping the issue. So 700 billion people in the
No.
world, 400 die, and then they make a lot of noise. Those are important lives.
No,
Those people are important lives.
no,
But it's true, there's an
no,
element
not
of
just the
overhype.
media, not just the media, even individuals, Facebookers, social media, politicians, even health workers, they're, telling people in a threatening way, oh, you have to wear a mask, you have to do this, if you don't do this, So all that just creates fear and panic. And fear and panic, whether you like it or not, it blinds your judgment. It takes away that objectivity. It nullifies it a bit. And, that's why we're having all these issues. But if people were realistic about this, if people saw what it is, for what it is, not, for what it could be, all of us could die, that sort of thing, yeah? If people focus on what it is exactly, how it spreads, how it infects, how it causes havoc, and they took that measures themselves as individuals without waiting for people telling them, then life would be seemingly normal, although in a sort of somber mode, but seemingly normal. Right now, there's no reasoning whatsoever.
Until let us let Enoch, and we have a gentleman, Norman. So Enoch and
Yes.
Norman, do you want to dive in here?
Yeah, I want to dive in. I'm thinking, yes, it is a new virus, so a lot of the reaction is justified to some extent because we do not know how it's going to behave. We don't know whether it is going to change with the seasons now that seasons are changing. But I am concerned with how the decision makers actually making these decisions. For example, the lockdown in Uganda is a bit shady. We are just adopting something that other countries have done without understanding the context in which they are operating. Other countries have ways of keeping people indoors and they keep on living normal lives. It is not something that Uganda can sustain for a long time. So because I know that this is not a sustainable living, I know surely it will end. But
When
we may have overreacted in.
If you're to estimate
No,
for
we
us,
cannot
when
tell, like I said,
when do you think it's going to end? When will life go back to normal?
So everyone is looking at the virus, which has been projected to come out in like 18 months. I do not think that
I
will
was
take
still
18 months
coping.
for yeah.
Like, so you want to watch movies now?
Yeah.
Wait.
Yes, Enoch, go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead. Continue.
Yeah. So I think it might even pass before the vaccine comes, because for most people, it is actually a mild disease. We are concerned about overwhelming the health system with the many cases, and that is why we are having all of these lockdowns to reduce the spread, that whole flattening the curve thing keep on talking about. But at what cost? Like, at what cost? I think it is something that has
just
not
a minute
been well
there, Enoch.
thought.
I see both of you, both you and Anchila are dodging the question. I'm asking, when do you think this is going to end? I want you to say a month, a week, but you've dodged the question. You're
But
not
I
giving
answered
anything. You're not.
I
know we are not fortune tellers, but you can say, in my view, I give it a year, or I give it 2 years, or I give it 3 months.
Okay.
At the end of this year, if I have to
go ahead, Enoch.
go on.
Enoch,
I'm thinking by the end of this year, that's my prediction. I don't think we have to wait for the vaccine. It will pass before the vaccine.
By the end of this year,
most
life
people
is
who are going to die from it would have.
Okay.
People have the mild disease, and it will be part of what she was saying. Yeah.
Norman, do you have something to say about that?
Well, hello guys, how are you doing?
Fine.
Sorry, I jumped in late on the discussion. However, we must agree that this is a new disease.
Indeed.
And every other day, information comes out. So, as to the question at hand, this disease might take up to maybe next year in March, a year from now, for it to really end and people can move freely and all these, I would say maybe border controls for people to start going about their business. In my opinion, it's going to take about a year. But
About
people by maybe the summer, August, some borders will have opened, but for it to really, it has caused a lot of not only economical, but the psychosocial impact for people to have COVID off their minds. Because now look at all sectors, entertainment. There's no news you can watch. Sports news has become Corona news. Entertainment news has become Corona news. So everything, for it to really, you have to look at also that perspective. For it to really, I'm thinking about a year from now
a
for
year.
people to be like, yeah, about a year.
Let's capture a comment from a gentleman here called Gladiator, and then we shall go back to the menu. Gladiator, do you have something to say? How long do you think we are going to have to deal with this corona?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we're hearing you loud
Yeah.
and clear.
How long do I think the corona is going to last?
Yes, how long do you think it's here with us?
All the confusion it has brought.
How long do you think life is going to take before it goes back to normal?
I don't think it will last too long. Probably 2 months.
2 months.
I have a feeling we're going to get a vaccine.
Yeah.
We're going to get a vaccine. And well, as long as the European countries start distributing the vaccine, vaccinating everyone, life will just go back to normal. So
A lot of hope on that. A lot of hope on that vaccine. Let's move on to the next.
Before you can move, Emma?
Yes.
Sorry, there are two Emmas. So what can I call you, Mpamizo?
Yes. Or you can just say Tea.
Anyway, okay. Before you can move on from that question, Chair, I'd like to break it down. Break my answer down for you in order to show you the perspective I'm having about the question in particular. When will Corona end? When will this havoc end? That's a matter of, one, people accepting this as part of their lives. So that sort of makes it easy for them to move on with their lives normally. Then secondly, when the vaccine will be gotten, which I think will be gotten by the end of this year or even sooner, maybe like in a few months, 3 or 4. But then distributing it all over the world is going to be the issue. So that will take a bit longer. And when that happens, people will start moving on normally. But going back to the acceptance bit that this is Corona, this is how it is, this is, the chances of me surviving are this. Once people get to that level, they'll adjust their lives to the conditions they're in right now. They may still be keeping the social distance. They may still be doing the whole sanitizing bit, all that, but they'll move normally. They'll find ways of conducting their businesses, holding their meetings, you get. So that will be the new normal. It's not like we're going to go back to how things were before, but we're just going to adjust to a new normal. We're going to accept a new reality. That's the point we'll get to. And that will take at least like a year, like one of the gentlemen said, a year probably.
So about a year, life is going to turn back to normal.
Not to the previous normal, but to a new normal, to a new level.
When people have accepted it like it's part of life, like the way HIV is part of life.
Yeah, like the way.
And road accidents.
Like the way you can have a dog at your home. The first time you meet it, you're scared it's going to bite you, but after a few days, you realize that it's just a dog, it's normal, and you move on with your life. That's the same way we're going to deal with this corona, but it will take some time, like a year.
Indeed. Allow us to go back to the next issue. The next issue now, the next item I say, so we are all human, and corona has affected the Chinese, the Europeans, the Africans. Almost everyone now has been affected by corona. How does this corona pandemic prove that we are all human? Whether you're a superpower citizen or you're a bottom of the bottom, third country citizen, how is corona showing that we are all at the end of the day human beings? Let's begin with you, Enock. You seem to be itching.
Okay. Okay, cool. I was thinking that when haven't we known that we are all human and that we are all susceptible to the same diseases, to the same crisis? I think we occasionally forget. Corona has offered a reminder, but we are bound to forget again. That's because it really takes moments of crisis like this for us to remember that, oh, we are in this together. And once things go back to normal, we go back to our own cocoons. And since the world is in such a way that people can actually rely on a small circle of people that they know, or even not only themselves. Case in point, people can social distance and live in their houses alone and survive. We are going to forget that you're human, but I think this has provided a good opportunity to recruit more people who are aware of humanity, and hopefully those few will carrying on the message that we are all in this together, not just the COVID crisis, but the whole life thing that we're in it together. So yeah, that's what I think.
Yes, thank you for that,
Okay.
Enoch.
Maybe to add on what Enoch is saying, to me, the biggest advantage in quotes I've seen about Corona is that it has nullified the social structure the world had. Yeah, you get the rich countries were protected from diseases like cholera, Ebola, hunger, stuff like that. It was just here in Africa. Then they also had those health systems whereby they don't have really bad infections. They're just dying of NCDs and stuff. But here comes Corona, which just plays a leveled field. It has no highs and downs. It just clears everyone, as it goes along. And also its spread being so contagious, sort of helped a lot. In quotes, I'm not happy about it, but because of that, it just dissolved that social structure that we had: the rich, the poor, the ugly, the young, the old. So in a way, that has reminded everyone that we're all literally the same. Our skin colors may be different, our genders may be different, but beneath all that, we have the same blood, the same organs, the same minds. So it has sort of shown us that we're the same and equal. It's just that, we created this society that's dividing everyone according to whatever they have or where they're born, that
So,
sort of thing.
the thing is
Hello?
crossing social ties. Yes, no man.
It
Yeah,
has no
Emma.
social ties.
Yeah, Emma, thank you so much. You bring something good to the table. But I would like to say that most of the things that are happening in the world have shown humanity that it's not about borders, it's not about race, it's not about color anymore. We are living in an era which is more globalized, if I can put it like that, more than before, more than in the past. So it
Fine.
Corona, I think, has been like a ticking time bomb. It was bound to happen. Uh, if you look at how it has impacted even the first world countries, they've run out of protective equipment. They're just like back home here. So I think most of the issues that are happening now, if you look at climate change, such a pandemic shows that we are living in a global village, like they usually put it. So it was just a matter of time that something, and I think in line to that, you see most people driving towards climate change and all that. Anything which impacts the West, anything which impacts maybe Asia, the East, it's bound to come down here and affect us all. So I think Corona is just a tip of the iceberg. All these things, all the global challenges that these people are advocating for are bound to affect us, because if the economy goes down, it's not going to be that since we are black or we are white, it will affect us all. It trickles down. The effect trickles down.
It trickles
So
down to us. Do you think,
yes.
Norman, that is the reason why there is hope that the vaccine is going to come? Because we know HIV has been here for 30 years, I think more than 30
Yeah.
years, but there is no vaccine yet. So now that, prime ministers in the West are being affected and
That's it.
are being taken ill, is that where the hope is coming from?
I don't want to align myself to more conspiracies, but you could put it like that. You could say, but most viruses, I mean, they have to. A virus like this, it has to spread. Definitely, it has to spread. The more people get maybe natural immunity, the better. We hope. But hoping for natural acquired immunity from the vaccine, it's a bit far-fetched because maybe the vaccine is going to take about 8 months for it to be developed. I mean, for them to try
I
out
see you're
everything.
really hopeful. Let me just
Yeah, but
I ask
okay, all
Gladiator.
right, all right.
Gladiator and Emma, do you want to weigh in before we continue? Enoch is itching to say something. Gladiator and Emma.
I don't know if you get it. You can hear me now.
Yes, we are hearing you, Gladiator. Although you sound like you have a flu, I don't know if you're safe.
Yeah, I'm saying. Now, I think this, we've always known that we're all human, but how prepared we are for such stuff, how the different races or countries are prepared for and like such things. So it, for me, all I see is that it has exposed some countries that were in quotes supposed to be above others. Has just exposed them to show their weaknesses. Otherwise, we've always all known that we are humans and stuff can affect us, but some countries are just way more prepared than the rest of us. Take for example China. They they are they were obviously way more prepared than the US and European countries. Like they can do more. The rest of us are just I don't know.
They have showed that they can do more, but you know
There's
they
too
have
much
also been
pretense
susceptible.
and politics. They, for example, the US, there's just too much pretense and politics. Okay, they can handle other things, maybe like nuclear wars and what, but on the side of health, I don't think they are doing as well as they pretend to be.
As well
They're
as they claim.
they're not doing as well as they
Uh,
pretend to. Yes, yes, Gaita.
yes, I wanted to bring out another point about the issue of the vaccine being gotten.
Yes.
People are so hopeful. I like calling it wishful thinking that they expect the vaccine to come very soon. But there's also a very likely possibility that it may not. In the case, for example, up to now, I've never gotten anything for HIV. So it could also happen for Corona. We're hearing all these stories, we're reading all these articles that, oh, you know, they're in testing, they're doing this, but it's not yet a given. It's just something we're hoping for, you understand? So
Yes.
in the event that they fail to get the vaccine, what does humanity do? Do we continue locking ourselves in the houses or do we figure out what next? You know, so I think that should be left as a food for thought because it's quite disturbing.
Quite disturbing. We seem like we're rushing, but let's go to the next issue. So now the next issue is that so the world has been locked down for some time. Uganda, I think it's just like a week or so. Other countries has been longer. And yet it seems life is continuing normally in quotes. You know, there is running water, people have enough food to eat, they have electricity, some lucky ones have internet. The question is, what does this have to say about the work that we are always rushing to do? If you're always rushing, you know, to be in office by 7 a.m. and yet you've been off for a month and you're still able to get food and, you know, all these other things, what does that say about the work you claim that you have, or you've actually, you say you've been doing? Jump in, guys.
Okay. About that, I think Corona has also exposed our biases in day-to-day lives. Someone wakes up in the morning, he's rushing to beat traffic in order to get to work, and to get to work, he's not really going there to do his work. He's going there to like chat with his buddies or his office girlfriend, you know, or maybe he has to do some good deals in town. You get, but not really to focus on the work he's supposed to do at hand. Apart from a few jobs, I think that require you to do that, that make you always, that are always monitoring your performance. So this Corona has shown that quite a lot of work doesn't really require physical presence, like, you know, to have an office, to be there, you understand, especially in this era where we have internet and all sorts of ways of communicating and transacting. So that's also going to change in the world of tomorrow. Even when the corona goes away, people are going to ask, why the fuck do I have to go to office when I can do this from home? You see, so yeah, so there's going to be that sort of debate for a while until they reach a gray area where everyone is comfortable with the new sort of life. Because being home, it may feel disturbing right now because you're confronted with your family, with your, that small home that you have, the people that you're supposed to love. So eventually people will get to appreciate that. They'll get to realize, oh, this feels nice, this feels good, instead of escaping every day just go to work and come back in the evening and go to bars later. So once people get to see the value of family, the value of the people they love, of spending time with them, they will be reluctant to go back to that sort of previous thing, unless, you're just dumb, really.
I don't know if human beings are that fast. Enock, what do you have to say? So a whole month, no work, and yet life
Yes, so
be continuing to normal. What does that say about the work we say we've been doing?
I'd like to challenge the statement that life.
So a whole month or something without work, and yet life seems to be going on as normal. Majority of people have enough food to eat. They have running water. So what is the whole big deal? Why is it that every day they are rushing to work if they can afford to take off a month from work and they're still able to have running water in their houses and food in their stomachs? What is the whole big deal?
As well as do their works from home.
Yeah,
Don't forget that point.
I like to challenge the statement that life is actually going on as normal. It is not true for most people, at least in Uganda. It's not the case. Like I said, this lockdown has to be implemented in a different way for different economies. For us, most people actually live in hand to mouth. So for them, life is not continuing as normal. For many of us, like most people that you're talking about that we can actually afford to take a month off. Like I could take maybe even 2 months and I would not feel it and I'll be fine. And there's some who are actually being enabled by the pandemic. For example, people who are actually responding to the crisis, they have more work these days, more money. People who are doing online businesses are doing much better. So it is different. It has affected people's work-life balance differently. But I just want to
Enock,
point out.
Enock, just let's say a month ago, I can picture you are on a border rushing to get to work on time, isn't it? I can imagine a month ago, even 2 weeks ago, you were on a border rushing to get to work. Here you are, you have spent 2 weeks at home, and yet life is going on normally for you. So what is the big deal? What is that you are rushing to do, which right now you've spent 2 weeks without doing, and life is okay for you, life is normal for you? What's the whole rush about? Why can't you,
Like I said, for most people that the most people that Emma, like they can afford to do that. But for many others, they cannot. Actually, I would argue that for most Ugandans, they cannot afford this lockdown. But if you look at the middle class, yes, most of us can afford to slow down. Yeah, so for us who can afford to slow down, we should ask ourselves, did we need this crisis to actually ask for more out of life? For example, is it fair that people are working 45 hours a week, 60 hours a week, and they can only afford to pay their rent and utilities? So that can be because the boss not giving them enough money, but that could also be because they have bad spending habits. Yeah, so that is the challenge, people who can afford to work less. But then there are those who are actually going to be broke, and there's actually an inevitable economic depression coming from this. It was already coming before COVID, and COVID has just accelerated it. For people who are living hand to mouth, COVID should offer them a moment of reflection and wonder, but why am I really living hand to mouth? Why can't I build systems that enable me to make money, even if when I am not there? So I do not think to say that life is going on normally with the lockdowns and all the other restrictions, that is actually a true statement. It is true for a minority, especially in Uganda. Yeah, that's it.
Emma,
yes.
I just wanted to contribute to that, but What I can say about the issue of work, when this crisis was knocking on the door, most big corporations and organizations had to come up with plans of how they are going to operate amidst the crisis. So to a person, okay, to an organization, let's say a leader or a CEO, they had to come up with a plan and consider what essential services have to continue and what services they can do without. So what I can say is that when it comes to this running to work and all that, most people have now seen, it's not easy for you to wake up and think, let's say, now I can have essential services and these are not. But such a crisis will put you in a position to do that, to come up with a plan, how you're going. So what we can learn is that people are going to come up with better working strategies going forward, of thinking how do people really need to be working these hours, maybe 8 hours 5 days a week, 6 hours 6 days a week, or they need to cut them down, maybe work from home and all that. Other people are already doing that, or were already doing that, those who do e-commerce or what. But most organizations, it has just hit them. They needed the crisis to realize that, hey, look, even bringing it to a personal to a personal level, I realized how much time I needed to spend at work and how much time I could be productive at home, maybe online or doing some other things. So I think it's going to be a learning lesson. We can only, maybe like Steve Jobs said, we can only connect the dots by looking back after the crisis.
By looking,
What we really have learned, yeah.
let us just bring something which you've touched on, which is actually on our agenda. We were asking that do you imagine like a country, maybe Uganda or Kenya, after this crisis is going to say, from now onwards, next year and the year after that, let us take off 2 weeks in March or 2 weeks in September or 2 weeks in April, where there will be a lockdown and only the essential services will work. Do you imagine as that is something going to happen? Do you think there is a country in the world which is going to think of something like that?
I don't think so. I think this whole lockdown is just as an emergency measure to the coronavirus, but as soon as that goes away, life will adjust to a new normal. Like Norman said, people will start thinking, oh, do I really need to go to work and spend this much time? Do I have to go to office or I can work from home? You understand? So they'll adjust towards that, and I think that will be a very good thing because it will create time for them to spend either with their families or to doing the stuff that they actually like as individuals. You understand? Eh?
So
So
where does this hype, this noise of the economy is we have to develop the economy, we have to, what's that the developing the economy, what is it all about? If people have something to eat and they have fuel in their car, what is the whole rush to develop the economy if the economy can afford to stop for a month or two? So I don't know, China's economy has stopped, it's now resuming. UK's economy has stopped, US economy has stopped, and people there are not starving. So what is the whole rush about pushing the economy forward? Why don't we just, leave the bare minimum? As long as you can eat and drive your car, that is enough. Why force to push economies?
man, don't underestimate human greed.
Yes.
Eh? Sorry, no, you can go on.
Yeah, so I say that COVID has given us an opportunity to reflect, but do not assume that everyone is going to come out of that reflection with the same conclusions. I think for the most part, human beings will like things to stay the same, even if there's a potential for a positive change. Would rather stick to what we are used to. And what's going to happen that when these restrictions have been removed, people are actually going to try to make up for lost time. So I actually expect like a lot of busyness after the restrictions have been lifted. But to have like what you're thinking of, like a nationwide change of mindset, or kind of like a nationwide change in culture, it have to be something that is slowly and consistently fed into the psyche of the people who are making the decisions. there are countries which already have systems that respect that human beings need some downtime, and they might be more encouraged by COVID to continue doing the same. But for most countries, as Gaitan has said, that people are very greedy. For most countries that are very greedy, we have a culture that is driven by greed. We are going to just go on even working harder. But about that whole thing of economic growth, I think COVID has actually proved that to some of us, it has proved that there is no need for that much economic growth. But not everyone will be able to see that there is enough for us in the world to take care of our basic needs. But many people, because they already have these cultures of greed, you have to buy the latest model of phone, you have to buy new threads every month. Most people, they're going to continue making up for the need that is created by that greed, and so they'll still continue pushing for economic growth.
And also to add on to this point that we're talking about, I think people's sex have also been woken up, especially the Western guys who have been polluting the environment like nothing. Just this brief period and the changes that have occurred in their cities and water bodies and whatever, that itself will also drive changes in our work practices, you know. So that will like every sort of economic decision that comes about will have to be considered in terms of environmental impact. You understand? Things like over tourism, things like, you know, industrializations, things like fuels that we use, the kinds of cars we drive, you know, the kinds of buildings we build, stuff like that will have to be all considered. So that itself will sort of reduce the greed in order to protect the environment. I don't know how to phrase it, but I hope you get my point somehow.
What I'm getting from you is that maybe the world has benefited from this break. You're talking of water bodies and pollution. So they are benefiting from this.
Yeah.
And
COVID
we're
has been
seeing
a
it
bad
live.
thing, but it also has certain advantages.
Yeah. And we're seeing it live. It's not like Greta Thunberg is here telling us this and this and this, but we're actually seeing it happening. You understand?
I understand.
So that brief moment has sparked a light in people's minds, and eventually you're going to see people not dropping trash anyhow, you know, being conscious about whatever they're doing with the environment.
There are reports that death rates from things like road traffic accidents in, you know, many of those fast-paced countries have dropped. Almost no one is dying from road traffic accidents anymore. But these numbers, of course, are being compensated by the COVID thing. Norman, yes, Norman, you ran away just before we're about to ask you.
My connection had issues, but it's back on. Sorry. Go ahead.
Let us go to the next issue. So I'm not going to blasphemy here, but there are certain religious leaders who are saying that, you know, these are the end times. You know, they were talked about in Bible, global pestilence, wars, and, you know, catastrophes, and these things have been happening more and more frequently. And COVID is, you know, the cream on the cake. Do you guys believe that the end times are here?
Man, oh, sorry, no, man. I think we've had a lot of end times throughout history, from the Bible to 2000, Y2K to...
This time it's the real time.
So to me, I'm quite agnostic. I'll have to clarify that. And I believe texts like the Bible, the Quran, they're good literature, good philosophical books, but with ancient stories that were written for their time then and stories that don't apply now. But if you're open-minded enough, you can get quite good advice from there.
That is a discussion which we can go into, but we shall let it slide for now. The Bible is not just continue with your point. We shall let it go for
good
now.
Philosophy, but to me, I don't think this has anything to do with God. I don't think it has anything to do with ends of times. We are going to survive this. If I die, there'll be another human being who will live and replace me and continue the process. So it's just a matter of time for us to get over this, to move on with life as it is, because that's what life is basically. It keeps on evolving, it keeps on changing. The way we look right now won't be the same way humans 1,000 years from now will look like. They may be different. So it's not an end of time in that grand scale of the world. The world will always be there, with or without human beings. But people are just worried about extinction. That's it, basically.
Okay.
Uh,
So
Emma.
on this
Oh, sorry, Enoch.
time,
Sorry, Enoch.
Go ahead, Enoch.
so on this question of end times, a question of end times, I'm interested. Why do people think that this is the herald of the end times? Is it because of the number of people that have died?
The
Because if it's the
500.
number of people who are dying, like this are not people. If it's
It's
about the
the
hype that
frequency
has
of
been created,
the frequency of all these events. So wars
Even
are
if
here,
500
but
die
most
every day,
and then here we have COVID.
7 billion people will go on forever.
Continue,
no,
Enoch.
that
Continue.
people say like maybe it should have been Y2K when it ended, because maybe from the 19th century, we were having more wars, more serious wars than now. Maybe it would have been in the 14th century with the bubonic plague. Like so, there is. I do not. I want to challenge, even if I were Christian and like believe in
You're not a
end times
Christian.
created by some God.
Are you
Like
not a
even
Christian?
if that's not the Christian,
That-
that is the case. Yeah. Even if that was the case,
Hey.
I want to. I would like to tell it to the Christian, to the believer, whatever. Not just a Christian. Let me not pick on the Christians. The theist. So what makes this time special from the bubonic plague, from World War I and II, from the other economic depressions we've had for whatever reason? What makes it
Noah's
special
flood.
that
Use the
this
example.
is so? The example, come again?
Noah's
Just
flood,
talk of
and it's in
Noah's
the
flood.
Bible, so they can relate easily.
Okay.
The world didn't end.
Exactly. That was much worse, although I really doubt that even happened. But
Yeah.
there is no reason. I don't think this crisis is special enough to warrant the fear that this might be the end of times. It might be the end of times, but it will not be for the reasons that we think it is. I think people think it is end of times because there is much more hype about it. Who knows?
But
Tomorrow
you're
there might
not
be a huge.
convinced that the end times are here. These are not the end times according to you.
These are not the
Yeah,
end. These are definitely the end time.
yes or no, just be like, no, they're not going to happen. But then I might be wrong. Like I say, tomorrow an asteroid might hit Earth and then we are obliterated. But
Hey.
judging by the evidence before us from this crisis, like that is, no.
It's not the end times. Yes, no man, gladiator, huh?
Drop in the ocean.
Are these the end times?
I will put it in simple terms. These are not the end times.
These are not
the end times.
Gladiator, what do you have to say? Gladiator, are you here with us? I think he's not paying attention. Dr. Emma, are these the end times?
I can hear you.
Yes, we're asking if these are the end times. Go ahead. I think we're going to have to continue. The gentleman is not. Yes? No, we're not picking the gladiator, unfortunately. Yes, go ahead.
Muting me. I was saying,
Yes.
most people don't have enough authority to conclude that these are the end times or not, myself inclusive. It might be.
Who has the authority to conclude for us?
Well, it might not be. The prophets, the priest, the pope, those kinds of guys. The rest of us who are not decided enough cannot conclude that these are the end times.
Okay. So we're about to come to the end. Someone is sending in a question. They are saying that, Mr. Chairman, The discussant should give their thoughts about the sudden appearance of bailout money from all corners of the world. The world has been having problems and yet there has been no bailout money. Now, all of a sudden, there is bailout money from all corners of the world. What is happening?
People, you have to remember that money is just printed. Like it's a piece of paper. So
Yes.
it's not like if they have more money, they're just going to create maybe more economic problems for us. But you have to, if you remember that money is just printed, it's not like they are adding more value to the system. Some may be changing what the money was earmarked for. Like in Uganda, maybe we are taking money from HIV, TB, malnutrition patients and putting it in COVID. But countries like the US could just be printing their own money and causing more inflation.
So the money they are giving to
not
their
like more
citizens is
value.
money they are printing.
I am not saying that for sure, but I'm just saying that that has happened before. That has happened before. There are bailouts that are created by just people, but by just the US deciding that you're not going to print and put more money in the system. In that sense, we're just adding paper to the system, not adding value. So when you have that in mind, you realize that it's not that there was excess value hidden. It's just paper.
It's just paper. Any of the two guys want to share it in?
I don't think some of, you are talking about the economy. Some of the bailout money is coming from, I mean, the rich guys. There are people who have reached a level of financial freedom. Some of the top billionaires in the world, but most of them are tech billionaires. Right now, they feel like they are still in business. If you look at maybe Amazon, actually, most of the tech companies are even they are booming.
They're doing better.
They are doing better. They are doing well. So why would they inject back the money in such a pandemic? Is that, well, much as they are doing well, but the economy, the way it works is that it will come back to them. So they have to make sure that they deal with this pandemic as fast as possible, so that everyone is back on their feet. Because if maybe the agriculture sector is not functioning because people are scared, people are panicking, people are sick, they are not healthy, it means people won't have food. If people don't have food, I mean, it just goes on round and round. So most of the bailout money, like Enock was saying, okay, some of the bailout money might not be justified, but in my own opinion, I think they just want to get the economy back. Okay, they want everything back smooth and running.
Back smooth and running.
Yeah.
So we are unfortunately out of time. So I'm just going to have an ending comment from the three of you who are still left without. It's going to be a little bit personal. So the question I'm asking you is, do you think you are personally susceptible to this COVID? Do you think you're going to lose your life? I will not talk about relatives and the other because that would be too personal. But I'm asking you, the speaker, do you think you're susceptible to this COVID thing? Let us begin with you, Gladiator. You seem to be itching to say something.
I don't know. I can't tell.
No, we cannot accept such an answer.
Eh?
We can't accept such an answer. It is either a yes, I think I'm susceptible, or a no. There's nothing like I do not know.
I may or may not be susceptible to this thing. You
That
can't
is
tell.
the same answer I've given previously. So you've chosen to stand on the wall. Let us see if Norman is going to be more decisive. Norman.
Yes.
I am on the wall.
Hello?
Yes,
I
go
was
ahead.
saying,
I
think I'm susceptible. One, like I said at the beginning, this is a new virus. Okay, it's new in a way that, okay, it's a variant of a previous virus, but the one thing which drives me to that answer is that every day information comes out about the virus. I don't know if China had been hiding stuff or something, but being a new virus, you can never say no. Maybe it could mutate in a couple of months and become more infectious and more fatal, because if the right now the mortality rate I think is between 3 and 4% or something lower, but something could happen, and because we don't have conclusive information about it, so I can never say I'm safe and immune.
So you can never say never. Enoch, what do you have to say?
I think if you're talking about susceptibility, when you in the matter of whether I can get infected, I have no reason to think I will not get infected. So I personally think the sooner the better. I'd rather get infected and deal with it. I think I'm less likely to die.
Why? Why do you think you will
Yes, that's
die if
basically
you get
it.
it? Others are dying.
Very good health. I'm in very
They,
good health. If the science is correct that it kills people who have comorbidities, I have none. So I am less likely to die, but I think I will definitely get coronavirus, and the sooner the better, because I want to get that natural immunity real fast.
you want to get it over and done with. You get it, but you will not die. So, guys, thank you very much for participating. Unfortunately, we've been caught up by time. We plan to make this a little bit more frequent. So, if you have more ideas on how we can shape it and make it more engaging, please go ahead and communicate with me. But otherwise, thank you very much. Thank you for your important communications. Let's end it here.
Thank you. Have a nice evening.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.